From Old Trafford outcast to Camp Nou hero, the Marcus Rashford story nobody saw coming. Let us be honest with each other for a second. When Marcus Rashford packed his bags and headed to Barcelona on a season-long loan last summer, how many of us really believed it was going to work out? Hand on heart. Most Red Devils fans were worried. Some were even embarrassed. Here was one of Manchester United's biggest homegrown stars, a player who had worn the shirt with pride since he was a teenager, leaving the club in some of the worst form of his career. Dropped, frozen out, struggling to even get a game at Old Trafford. And now he is standing on a pitch at the Camp Nou, having just scored a stunning free kick against Real Madrid in a 2-0 win that handed Barcelona the La Liga title. The crowd is going wild, his teammates are mobbing him, and Hansi, one of the most respected managers in world football, is standing on the touchline talking about how Rashford has a perfect mentality. If you wrote this as a movie script, people would say it was too dramatic to believe, but here we are. And for the Red Devils community, this story matters. Not just because Rashford is one of our own, but because it raises so many questions about what went wrong at United, what went right at Barcelona, and what happens next. Pull up a chair. We need to talk about all of it. What did Hansi actually say about Rashford? Before we get into the bigger picture, let us start with the manager himself, because the things Flick has been saying about Rashford over the past few months tell a really important story. First, there was the moment Rashford was left out of the starting lineup for one of Barcelona's games. In a lot of clubs, that kind of decision causes drama. Players complain, agents make calls, stories leak to the press. But Rashford just got on with it. He stayed professional. He supported his teammates. And afterward, Flick went out of his way to praise exactly that behavior. "I went to speak to Marcus Rashford about why he did not play," Flick said. "He has a perfect mentality. For him, the most important thing was that we won. That is exactly what we need at this club." Think about what that means for a second. This is a player who was reportedly training alone at Carrington not long ago, a player whose confidence had completely fallen apart. And yet here he is at one of the biggest clubs in the world, accepting a bench role with zero complaints. And his manager is using him as an example of exactly the right attitude. That is not a small thing. That is a complete transformation. Flick did not stop there either. He has spoken about how Rashford's all-round game has improved since arriving at Barcelona. His defensive work, his pressing, his positioning. Things that were apparently a problem back at United. Flick has even said that he takes some credit for helping Rashford improve in those areas, which shows you just how much work has gone into this. So what changed? How did a player who looked finished at Old Trafford suddenly become someone Hansi Flick cannot stop talking about? That is the question worth sitting with. The free kick that changed everything. Let us talk about May 10th, 2026, because that day deserves its own section. Barcelona versus Real Madrid, La Liga. The title on the line. You honestly cannot script a bigger occasion in Spanish football. These two clubs hate each other in the best possible way. Every Clásico carries the weight of history. Add a league title into the mix, and the pressure becomes almost impossible to describe. Rashford starts the game. He gets his chance, and he delivers a free kick. Clean, precise, into the net. The Camp Nou erupts. Barcelona go on to win 2-0. The La Liga title is theirs. Back-to-back championships. And Marcus Rashford, a Manchester United loanee who was being written off by many people just 12 months ago, is right in the middle of the celebration. Afterward, Flick was asked about Rashford's contribution and did not hold back. He called his impact unbelievable. He said he needed to re-watch the goals because they were so good. That second goal in particular had him impressed. And Rashford, when he was asked how he felt, he said something really beautiful in its simplicity. "This is the perfect way I want it to end. I am very happy. I just want to enjoy today. I live in the moment. I came here to win and we do this, so I am very happy. It is an incredible feeling." He scored his 14th goal of the loan spell that day. 14 goals. Think about that number. Think about what Rashford was producing at Manchester United before he left, and now he is up to 14 in a single loan season at one of the most demanding clubs in world football. Does that not make you wonder what went so wrong back home? We will get to that. So, what actually changed for Rashford at Barcelona? This is the part of the story that every Red Devils fan needs to understand, because it is not just about Barcelona being a better club or La Liga being an easier league. Something specific happened to Rashford under Flick's management that did not happen at United. Let us break it down. The first thing is the mentality piece. Flick is clearly very good at having honest conversations with his players. When Rashford was left out, Flick did not just ignore him or leave him to figure it out. He went and spoke to him directly. He explained the decision. He made Rashford feel respected even when he was not playing. That kind of management is rare, and it matters more than people realize. Players do not just need tactics and fitness. They need to feel valued and understood by their manager. Flick clearly gives Rashford that. The second thing is the technical improvement. Flick has spoken openly about the areas where Rashford was weak when he arrived. His defensive contribution was apparently not good enough. His pressing was off. His positional awareness needed work, and Flick went after those things directly. He made Rashford work on them, and the results have been visible. This is a player who was seen as a liability in his own half at times last season. Now he is contributing defensively in a way that earns him trust from his manager. The third thing is the role clarity. Flick has used Rashford in two positions, as a number 9 through the middle and as a number 11 on the left wing. That versatility has been really valuable for Barcelona. It means Rashford can be useful in different ways depending on what the game needs. And for a player who had sometimes looked lost and uncertain about his role at United, having that clear understanding of where and how he fits seems to have done wonders for his confidence. Here is a question worth asking yourself as a Red Devils fan. Did Manchester United ever really know how to use Rashford properly in those final difficult months, or did he just get lost in the chaos of a struggling club? The £30 million question. Now we get to the part that is going to be talked about for weeks and months to come. Barcelona have the option to sign Rashford permanently. The reported fee is somewhere between 30 and 35 million euros. That works out to around 26 to 30 million pounds. On paper, that sounds like a lot, but think about it for what it actually is. You are talking about a 28-year-old who has just had one of the best seasons of his career, a player who has scored 14 goals in a single season at Barcelona, a player his manager has publicly praised multiple times, a player who just scored in a Clásico to win a league title, and you can get him for 26 million pounds? That is exactly what Rio Ferdinand said when asked about it. The former United legend and pundit was completely direct about the situation. If Barcelona get Rashford for the reported 26 million pounds that we are talking about, that is an absolute robbery, Ferdinand said on his show. What a loan signing he has been for Barcelona. Would you have that Marcus Rashford back? 100%. But I think that ship has sailed. I think deep down he wants to stay at Barcelona, and I just hope that actually materializes for him. Rio Ferdinand saying that is quite something. This is a man who loves Manchester United. He is not going to say things like that lightly, but he is being honest about the situation. The value is extraordinary. And the reality is that if Rashford leaves for that kind of money, United will have sold one of their own academy products for basically nothing after years of not getting the best out of him. That is a hard pill to swallow. But here is where it gets complicated. Barcelona actually signing Rashford is not a done deal by any means, and the reasons why have nothing to do with football. Why Barcelona might not pull the trigger. Here is the frustrating part of this whole story. Despite everything, despite Flick's public support, despite the 14 goals, despite the title-winning free kick, despite Rio Ferdinand calling the deal a robbery, Barcelona have still not committed to signing Rashford permanently. And the main reason is money. Barcelona are a club with serious financial problems. Everyone in football knows this. The famous economic levers they used to bring in big players a couple of years ago have left them in a complicated position. Triggering a purchase clause, even one as affordable as 26 to 30 million pounds, is not straightforward for a club in their situation. There are reports suggesting Flick himself remains undecided about whether to push for the permanent signing. That feels a little surprising given how much he has praised Rashford publicly, but it may reflect a more practical reality inside the club. Flick might love having Rashford available, but also be weighing up whether that money could be better spent elsewhere. Rashford himself has been honest about the uncertainty. He has said he wants to stay. He has spoken about how much he loves the club and how he believes they are going to keep winning things. But he has also admitted that he is not a magician and cannot control what happens. The decision is not his to make. There is something quietly heartbreaking about that. A player who has completely turned his career around, who has given everything in a loan spell, who has delivered in the biggest moments, and his future still hangs on balance sheets and boardroom decisions. Do you think Barcelona will find a way to make it work, or will financial reality win out? What does this mean for Manchester United? Let us bring it back home for a moment, because all of this has big implications for the Red Devils. If Barcelona sign Rashford permanently, United get around 26 to 30 million pounds for a player who has just had his best season in years. Some fans will say that is decent business given how poorly things had gone in his final months at the club. Others will see it as a failure. A talented, homegrown academy product, someone who scored on his debut as a teenager, someone who represented the club at some of the biggest moments, leaving for a cut price fee because United could not figure out how to get the best out of him. It raises some uncomfortable questions. Was Rashford's decline really all about him? Or did the environment at United play a big part? Flick's success with him suggests that with the right coaching, the right conversations, and the right clarity of role, Rashford can still perform at a very high level. If that is true, then the responsibility for what happened at Old Trafford does not lie entirely with the player. And if Barcelona do not sign him permanently, then what? Does he come back to United? Does a third club come in? What happens to the form and the confidence he has built up over this season? The last thing anyone wants is for Rashford to fall back into the situation he was in before the loan. There are no easy answers here. But the question for United's new leadership is this. If Rashford returns, do you have a plan for him? Do you have a manager who can do what Flick has done? Or will history just repeat itself? The Rashford redemption story and what it tells us about football. Stepping back from the transfer talk for a second, there is something genuinely moving about this whole story that goes beyond clubs and fees and contracts. Marcus Rashford was in a really dark place. Everyone could see it. His form was gone. His confidence was shattered. There were stories about his attitude, his professionalism, his commitment. It felt like a career that had promised so much was quietly falling apart. And then he went to Barcelona. And under a manager who treated him with respect, who communicated with him properly, who gave him clear expectations and clear roles, he became a different player. Or maybe he became the player he always had the potential to be. That should matter to all of us, not just as football fans, but as people, because it is a reminder that sometimes when a person is struggling, the environment they are in matters as much as anything about the person themselves. Rashford did not suddenly become talented at Barcelona. He was always talented. What changed was the context around him. Flick's praise for his mentality is interesting in this regard too, because the narrative at United was that Rashford's mentality was the problem, that he was not working hard enough, not caring enough. But here is Hansi Flick, one of the most demanding managers in the game, calling his mentality perfect. So who was right? Maybe the answer is that both things can be true. Maybe Rashford was struggling mentally at United, and maybe being in a better environment helped him rediscover himself. Humans are complicated. Footballers are humans. These things matter. The big questions going into the summer. As we head toward the end of the season and into what promises to be a fascinating summer transfer window, there are a few big questions that will shape how this story ends. Will Barcelona trigger the purchase clause? The fee is affordable by most standards, but for a club dealing with financial difficulties, even affordable is not always possible. Watch this space very carefully over the coming weeks. The answer will probably come down to whether Barcelona can move some of their current wage bill to free up the funds. What does Manchester United want? United's ownership and new football structure will have a view on this. They may prefer to sell permanently and take the money. They may want Rashford back if Barcelona pass on the option. The club's position behind the scenes will matter a lot. What does Rashford want? He has made it clear he wants to stay at Barcelona. He loves the club. He loves the city. He loves playing in a team that wins. He said himself that this was a wonderful team that would win so much in the future. He wants to be a part of that. Can you blame him? And the biggest question of all, if Rashford stays at Barcelona, plays another season or two at this level, and becomes an established top player in La Liga, how will United fans look back on this period? Will it be seen as a sad failure of the club to manage a talented player properly, or just the natural end of a relationship that had run its course? We do not have those answers yet, but the questions are worth sitting with. A final word to the Red Devils community. Look, we are all processing this in different ways. Some of you are genuinely happy for Rashford. You want to see him succeed, even if it is not at United. Some of you are frustrated. You look at those 14 goals and that title-winning free kick, and you wonder why we could not get that version of the player. Both of those feelings make sense. What is hard to argue with is the facts. Marcus Rashford, 28 years old, went to Barcelona on loan, scored 14 goals, helped win La Liga, scored in a Clásico, and earned the public praise of one of the best managers in the world. That happened. Whatever you think about what came before, that happened. And Rio Ferdinand is right. If Barcelona get him for £26 million, that is a robbery. The real takeaway for Manchester United as a club is this. Talent alone is not enough. Environment matters. Communication matters. The relationship between a manager and his players matters. Flick understood what Rashford needed. He had honest conversations. He set clear expectations. He praised good behaviour publicly. He developed the players' weaknesses and he got results. That is the standard United need to hold themselves to going forward, not just with Rashford, but with every player who pulls on that shirt. Because if a player can go from looking finished at Old Trafford to being a title winner at the Camp Nou in the space of 12 months, the problem was never really the player. Was it? Thanks for reading, fellow Red Devils. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Barcelona will sign Rashford permanently? Should United try to keep him if the deal falls through? And most importantly, what does this whole story tell us about where our club needs to go from here? Let the debate begin.